Are they primed to play well? Well, I think the defense is going to play great. I mean, they've played. I keep quoting the figures every week. I guess I'll take a second and add it up here in a minute. But they have played lights out the last whatever it would be 6 games since Oregon. They have been outstanding. So they just need to keep doing what they're doing. And Jim Knowles, whatever groove he's gotten into with calling the defense, it's been fabulous. They've been really good against the run for the most part. Michigan certainly churned out some yards. But, as I was talking to somebody yesterday at the Shot, a guy who goes to football practice quite a bit, and we were both of a mind that when your offense in that second half only runs like 8 or 10 plays, whatever it was, the exact number, and they go 3 and out, well, and then you have a defensive line coach who won't substitute. Mm-hmm. So you've got a number of things that conspire against you. You have your defense is being left for dead out on the field, and then you don't take tired players out of the game because they're your best players. You play right into Michigan's hands. And so, again, and I asked Jim Knowles, essentially, I tried to ask some pointed questions. Doggone it, I did. Chip Kelly, I asked him to play call. I tried to ask about running inside, and then I screwed up and said, do play callers get into a rut? I should have just said, why'd you run inside so much, whatever. And so he kind of took the ball and ran with it with, oh yeah, I think you can get into a rut and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. We never addressed the real issue. And then, of the stupidity of what they tried to do, again, putting the square peg into the round hole. And then Jim Knowles, it's kind of like, why do you let him get away with this? Why do you let Larry Johnson get away with this? I said, so you have guys who are good enough to play against, say, Iowa. Tony, you were sitting right there. Mm-hmm. You heard me say it. I said, you got guys who are good enough to play 25 plays. Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Malone, not Malone, Houston.
McDonald.
The other big kid inside who's come on, Caden McDonald. Mm-hmm. You got guys who are good enough to play 20, 25 plays against Iowa and Nebraska and, everybody else you play. But when you get in the quote unquote big game, you only have 4 guys who are good enough to play. Bullshit is my figure on that. Because in the one game that he did rotate those guys and those guys played some of their fewest snap counts of the year, they had tremendous production. And you get to the fourth quarter against Michigan and they got trampled. And it's because they were tired. They'd been overworked. They never got home, never sacked the quarterback. I know that he didn't rip them apart. He only threw for like 80 yards or something, but they converted 1 third down after another and ran the ball down your throat. And, here I am pissing and moaning about the defense. And they played great. But as Jim Tressel liked to say, everything is part of everything. Not producing on offense has a compounding effect on your defense. And if you don't do the smart thing on defense, when you're out there for an inordinate amount of plays and rotate your players, you're going to get beat. So hopefully they learned from that. If he has another, Sawyer, Tui, Maloau, Hamilton, Williams, 65-play game, Tennessee will win it in the fourth quarter. So,
yeah, Ohio State had 59 defensive snaps against Michigan, and Ty Hamilton and Tyleik Williams played 53 of those, and JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer played 53 and 52 of those. And
you wonder why Michigan sustains drives of 10 and 15 plays. Why is this? Why were they able to take the last 7 minutes off the clock and kick the winning field goal? It's because we ran the defense into the ground because our offense didn't produce and we didn't rotate on defense.
Yeah. And then you get Jack Sawyer have that interception and Larry Johnson's like, see, that's why he's out there, because he can make that play. And it's like,
well, I want him in there on the goal line, Tony. I want him in there on the damn goal line. I want him in there at the start of the drive when they're on their own 20. I want him in there for that because maybe we'll get a 3-and-out and impact the field position. But when they pick up the first down, it's time. It's time to
Yep.
change the line. I'm not saying sub all 4 guys, hockey sub it. I'm saying get a fresh guy in for 3 plays. Get a fresh guy in for 3 more plays. Rotate.
And,
Rotate.
and it's not like Michigan is running tempo to where you can't do that. Michigan is constantly subbing, so you can put guys in. Where there might be an issue now is Tennessee will run tempo, and so it will be difficult to get guys in. And then sometimes when you do, it may be difficult to get them off, which may make Larry Johnson even more reticent to sub because, well, I don't want to get Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson trapped out there for an entire series or whatever. But you have to rotate against Tennessee because Tennessee's going to run 20 more plays than Michigan did, and they're going to do it in a fast fashion. And so when there's an incompletion, you better sub, or else you're just you know exactly what's going to happen in the fourth quarter because Tennessee will hurry up and run the ball. They will hurry up and run the ball, and eventually Dylan Sampson, if you look at his numbers, first quarter Tennessee runs the ball for 4 yards a carry. Second quarter, it's 5 yards a carry. Third quarter, it's 6 yards a carry. And in the fourth quarter, they're just running the clock out. So it does. It gets better and it gets better. And by the fourth quarter, if Ohio State has not been substituting on the defensive line, Tennessee's just going to run the ball and win the game. And that's what Tennessee does. They tire you out. They run wide. They throw these screens. They'll get the defensive tackles running around and soften up that middle, and then just keep running at it as well. And Nico Iamaleava is a guy that can keep plays alive. He on a 3rd and 9, he can scramble and get out of trouble and pick up another first down. And then you're like, that's just a killer to the defense when that happens. So you have to sub guys. And the other thing is if Larry Johnson isn't confident in playing his juniors that are going to be seniors next year, what does that say about next year's defensive line?
Not good. Not good, Bob. Not good.
And that is certainly true about the Tennessee production. I will say that in one game against Georgia, of course, the game that they looked the worst and got manhandled the worst, Dylan Sampson came out on fire. The offense was smoking. They had like a 75-yard touchdown drive. Then they turned around a short field for a field goal, and it's 10-zip. They're rocking, and then Georgia put a stop to it, and they were the far dominant team after that. And that's what Ohio State should do at home against Tennessee. Tennessee's a really good football team. And certainly if they win this game, I will not be surprised in the slightest. I may even pick them to win the game. I don't know. But Ohio State's a better team. And if they play up to their capabilities, it should look something like the Georgia game.
Yeah, I would agree. Ohio State has the defense that is kind of built to contend with this. Now you just have to execute. Jim Knowles talked about how when he was defensive coordinator at Duke, David Cutcliffe said, I want this to be the fastest calling defense in the nation because they are facing a lot of tempo. So he wanted them however you design this defense, the calls have to be immediate. And so that's what they've done. And then he says, Ohio State still has the fastest calling defense in the nation. And it was interesting to listen to how they're doing some of the things to prepare for tempo, which, you're having the scout team and the twos go as fast as they can, but you can only do so much of that. They've also had the defense get lined up, but have their backs turned towards the ball. And then on a whistle the entire defense turns towards the ball and then has to find their assignment and get run over there before the ball gets snapped. So there's some processing that has to go on, but it has to be immediate, and you got to get lined up. You got to know what you're doing. But from everything the players and the coaches have said, they've been preparing for this, they've been dealing with this. You have a veteran defense. You are as equipped to contend with the Tennessee offense as any defense in the country. You just have to tackle. You just have to not commit pass interference penalties. And again, you just have to tackle. Get Nico Iamaleava down when you get a chance. Get Dylan Sampson down when you get a chance. Ohio State did a fantastic job of tackling against Michigan until they didn't. And it was just one play, and that sealed the game for the Wolverines. So you can't – if this is a close game, every single play, it could be the decider. So you've got to be sound. And And I think for the Ohio State offense, run some tempo. Tennessee's defense does not like it. They don't get lined up. You won't do it constantly because they'll eventually catch on, but you change some speeds, you can get them. They do have some good pass rushers, but the secondary, they've got a good corner. Their safeties are kind of wishy-washy. I've watched 4 games now, and Andre Turntine, their free safety, who is a former Ohio State guy, only gets a couple of tackles a game. You don't necessarily really notice him all that much making plays. I think the secondary can be had as long as the tackles hold up for Ohio State. I would not advise running inside the tackles for the Buckeyes because that's not been their strength for a while now. And so
Can you repeat
avoid
that,
that.
Tony?
Yeah, well, but they've learned their lesson, but let's see if they actually can take that lesson that they've learned and apply it to this game as well. And Steve mentioned it at the outset, going through this shuffling of the offensive line. They need to get that settled. I think one of the issues that I was told against Michigan is Austin Searveld got banged up. So he was playing a little banged up. And so that impacted things. And that might be also why they're taking a look at Luke Montgomery right now. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Searveld and Shamola back in there by the second half of that game. If things aren't going well, if Luke Montgomery gets the start and things aren't going well, Ryan Day said they're going to rotate. So figure out what works by the half and then go with that guy through the second half is what I would assume.
I think one of the commenters made a really cogent point here. Don't settle for field goals. And that was a question that the other question I asked Chip Kelly. Did you lose confidence in Will Howard after the big hit? He didn't play like we had seen him play in the previous 11 games for the most part. Did you lose confidence in Will Howard? And I brought up the 2 third down calls where they ran the ball. He said coming off the goal line, they ran that play to Henderson, which did get booed because they were trying to get the punter out away from the goal line. And, it was 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10 back in your own end. The quarterback had already thrown an interception deep in his own end, and they were trying to give the punter a better chance to get it out of there and help with the field position. They were going into the wind, so they just figured they needed to help the punter in that situation. The other one where they were going into the north end and had the 3rd and 9, that was the series where they had the throwback pass to G. Scott, I think, on 2nd down for nothing, and then try to draw play. I will give Chip the very, very small benefit of the doubt on that one because one time in 4, that draw play will slip through there and get you what you need. And again, 3rd and 9 in that situation should be a chip shot field goal. So they didn't want to screw that up, as we used to joke about Jim Tressel. Don't doink up my 3 or don't screw up my 3. He was famous for, setting that ball perfectly for the field goal. So this game don't play for field goals. Play for touchdowns. We'd much rather prefer that you go down, try and get that freaking ball to Jeremiah Smith. Think we'd rather, if you go down throwing the ball to Jeremiah Smith and the ball's incomplete in the end zone, their guy makes a great play or he just can't bring it in. Hey, we'll at least know you tried. Let's don't give Tennessee secondary that much credit. Let's go on the attack here. Emeka Egbuka, last game potentially as a Buckeye. I want to see like 6 for 100 in a touch. That's what I want to see. Jeremiah Smith, 7 for 100. That would be wonderful. Carnell Tate, work those sidelines, 5 for 50. Keep the chains rolling. If we get those 3 productions right there, Ohio State.
Yeah, I think as I said, Tennessee has a really good corner, Jamad McCoy, number 3. I'll be interested to see what they do with him. Do they match him up with Jeremiah? But they're going to move Jeremiah around as well. They'll move him into the slot. They'll move him wherever they need to. So I think they realize they have to look for their matchups. Against Alabama, Ryan Williams was targeted 19 times in that game. against Tennessee. Like they threw to him relentlessly. I'm not saying 19 targets for Jeremiah Smith because that's a bit much, but if he ends up with 5 targets or whatever, that's that's not winning football. He's one of your best players, and so you've got to use him. Now, one of the issues I thought it was interesting with Chip Kelly talking about one of the issues with the game plan and Ryan Day as well against Michigan was that a third of their plays were either coming out of the end zone or going into the end zone. So you don't have a ton of plays for that, and you're kind of limited in what you generally do in those instances, and that's maybe one of the reasons that they weren't able to do more. They're just bad situations, and you know what? But that's also football. That's going to happen. Special teams in this game might, if we're talking field position, because I think special teams killed Ohio State against Michigan, so there's no guarantee that it won't do the same against Tennessee. I will say Tennessee did give up a 100-yard kickoff return against Vanderbilt, but as I keep saying this week, and as we know, that does not apply to Ohio State because they do not return kickoffs, and they shouldn't. Frankly, don't return any kickoffs in this game.
The special teams are not special at Ohio State.
Yeah, to your point, Steve, if they're changing ends at the end of the first quarter and Ohio State's gone on 2 long, impressive drives, and Tennessee may have had a 15-yard drive and kicked like a 52-yard field goal, and it's 6-3 Ohio State, but the total offense is like 150-20. That we're not that you didn't get it done there in the first quarter. That's not the way to make these cash in.